40. And if you're following along in Student Guide, it's page 94. This volume, okay? You can hear me okay in the back? Good? Great. All right. What happened last time is that we left what is now our main character in Genesis, Joseph. We left him in a bad place. We started out by getting acquainted with his character as a young boy, and we found that his father Jacob played favorites and gave him what the King James Version calls a coat of many colors, that apparently the 11 other brothers didn't have anything similar to it. So in that way he got singled out and favored. And also in conjunction with that, he began to have some dreams that suggested that his brothers would all eventually bow down to him. Now they took extreme exception to this. Jacob, his father, took a viewpoint with a little bit more perspective, like maybe there is something to this. And but at any rate, the brothers were quite enraged about it. And one time when Joseph was sent out to see his brothers as they were tending the flocks quite a ways from home, they saw him coming, and their rage came to the surface, and they decided that they would take him and throw him into a cistern. And they were debating about whether to kill him or just leave him there to starve to death or whatever. And then a band of Ishmaelites came through, and they said, well, here's the solution. Let's just sell him to the Ishmaelites. Who knows where they're going? And we'll never have to look at Joseph or bother with him again. We'll bloody up his coat, his elegant coat that was given to him, and take it back to the old man, and we'll let him draw his conclusion. And the conclusion that he drew was that Joseph had been killed by some kind of a wild animal, so he had to kind of live like that. Well, Joseph ends up in Egypt, and he ends up in the household of Potiphar, the captain of the guard for the Pharaoh. And he is put in charge of the household. And it's just amazing the way that he transforms the household, so much so that Potiphar gives him more and more responsibilities, and every time he's given new responsibilities, he discharges them beautifully, and everything is going pretty well. And then the scripture makes note. Not only was Joseph skillful at managing a household, but he was a very attractive young man that did not escape the notice of Potiphar's wife. And while she was alone with him, she made numerous attempts to seduce him. On one occasion, she grabbed him and by his garment, and he left that behind and fled from the household. But she used that as proof that Joseph had made advances toward her rather than the other way around. And so Joseph is falsely accused, and as a result of that, he is cast into prison. So he goes from managing the household of one of the high authorities of Egypt to just being in prison. But we're going to see in our lesson today, we're going to see him make a remarkable turnaround and go from rags to riches pretty quickly. Let's start reading with chapter 40, and I'd like someone to read the first 8 verses, please. Okay. Uh, the scene shifts to a couple of other people we just get introduced to, the cupbearer or the butler, some of your translations may say, and the baker. What are their jobs? Yeah, yeah. To the Pharaoh, yeah. What would you? Yeah, yeah. Uh, they serve the purpose of serving the Pharaoh his food, but more importantly than that, in the background, they were part of the security detail. It wasn't easy to get to the king, who usually had a lot of enemies. But one of the ways was poisoning from the kitchen. And so they put people in great positions of trust there to watch out for the safety of the king. Yeah, yeah, I believe that's correct. Taste the food and wait a while, and if he doesn't fall to the floor, why, must be okay. Yeah, I would think, yeah, they had the best foods in the country. So okay, so these positions were very important. We don't know how they offended the Pharaoh. It just says they did something, and it probably wouldn't take much because kings were not used to being disappointed or upset in any way in those times. If you read the book of Nehemiah, in the second chapter, Nehemiah also was a cupbearer to the king, to the Persian king. And chapter 2 talks about Nehemiah being disturbed about the condition of the walls way back in Jerusalem. He just heard about it. He hadn't been there firsthand. But he goes into the king kind of downcast, and the king notices it. And the next verse says that Nehemiah was afraid. You didn't do anything to upset the king. So I'm saying it wouldn't take much for these two people to fall on the bad side of the Pharaoh. Okay. Now Joseph notices that these two people are really upset, and you think it'd be unusual for a jailer to notice that the prisoners are troubled? They, yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, everybody in prisons is troubled, and they all might all look the same. But Joseph was an unusual person. He had attention to detail, and he noticed that these two were upset, and he cared enough to ask about it. And they told him, "Well, we've had dreams, and these dreams are troubling to us. And what is more, we don't know what to make of them. We don't know how to interpret them." Well, we get in verse 8 a pretty good indication of where Joseph is at, because he could step in and say, "Well, I know how to interpret dreams," but he doesn't do exactly that. What does he do? Yeah, yeah. Interpretation belongs to God. I'm not going to be able to do it, but perhaps I can tap into it because of my relationship with God. All right, let's read on. Verses 9 through 15, if I could get a reader for that. Okay, so the cupbearer comes to Joseph and tells him his dream, and he talks about these clusters of grapes, and Joseph listens to the dream, and he says, "Well, these 3 branches that you saw in the dream are 3 days, and in 3 days you're going to get your job back. That you probably enjoyed a great deal." The only request that he makes of the cupbearer in return is that when you get restored to your position, remember me, because I'm down here pretty much forgotten. I didn't do anything to get here that deserved it, and I want you to remember me, and perhaps something else can be done. And he tells the cupbearer that he has been stolen out of the land of the Hebrews. To me, there's something critical that he left out of that. Yeah. I got stolen because my brothers, my very own family, sold me out, and this is how I ended up in Egypt. Okay, let's read on. The chief baker is looking on, and he sees this interpretation, and he says, "That sounds pretty good. Maybe the same thing would happen to me. So I'm going to ask Joseph to interpret my dream." All right, 16 to the end of chapter 40. Mark. Okay, so the chief baker is looking on, and he says, "Maybe this could work out for me as well." And Joseph said, "Yeah, the 3 baskets were 3 days, and in 3 days, Pharaoh is in fact going to lift up your head, but he meant it in a way different way than what he said to the cupbearer." And sure enough, Pharaoh has a birthday 3 days later. He has a big feast, a big party, calls everybody in. The cupbearer gets restored. He gets his old job back, and for whatever reason, the baker gets sent out and hanged. And so his head did in fact get lifted up, as the dream suggested. Genesis is a book that's just filled with communication by dreams. And this is just the latest. Can you think of some other previous dreams or visions that proved to be important in the telling of Genesis? Oh yeah, the stairway to heaven. Yes, exactly. The dream that Jacob had that reconfirmed the promises between God and Jacob. Okay, I've listed several here. The one from Genesis chapter 15 was God communicating to Abraham in a dream that even though it looks like time is passing by and you're not going to be the father of a great nation, I insist that you will be. And it was a way of reassuring Abraham that he would be the father of the great nation. In chapter 20, this is after Abraham tells Abimelech that Sarah is his sister, not his wife. And Abimelech takes her, and Abimelech gets warned in a dream that she's married. And so that's the way his life was saved. Chapter 28 is, in fact, I believe, the stairway to heaven. Chapter 31 is God communicating to Jacob while he is working for Laban that even though Laban has been a real crook towards you and changed your wages all these times, that I'm going to still bless you, and don't worry about it. Chapter 31 talks about this is a The first part of 31 is God communicating to Jacob through about Laban. But 22 through 24 is God communicating to Laban, when you catch up to Jacob after he's left and headed back to his own country, you don't harm him. You don't put a hand on him. So that was communicated also in a dream. And then chapter 37, Joseph's dreams that he had as a young boy with his brothers bowing down before him. Lots of dreams God communicated this way. Reminds me of the way that the book of Hebrews starts out. God, who at sundry times and in various ways talked through the prophets, but now, living in different times, he speaks to us through Jesus Christ. All right, so the cupbearer is back in business, got his old job back, happy as can be. What does it say about his gratitude toward Joseph when he just totally blows it off? Not much there. No, not much there. It's kind of like, I got mine, so nothing else matters. You know. Okay, so Joseph has done the right thing. He has helped this cupbearer. The favor has not been returned, and as far as he knows at this point, there's just no hope of him getting out of this prison. All right, 41. Let's go to chapter 41, and I'd like somebody to read the first 8 verses, please. All right, 2 more years pass by. As far as we know, Joseph is still down in the prison, forgotten. And you could appreciate his state of mind at this point. But unbeknownst to him, Pharaoh has a dream. Pharaoh has a dream. And in this dream, he's standing by the Nile. What's the significance of him standing by the Nile? Yeah. Somebody has said if there was no Nile, there would be no Egypt. And in fact, if you look at the population density of Egypt, practically the entire population lives within 10 miles of that river. Either side of it, you go further than that away, and it's all desert. So the Nile is kind of the lifeblood, and if anything happens to that river, Egypt's in trouble. So Pharaoh's standing by the Nile, and it's kind of unusual. Cows are land animals, but here they come up out of the river, and there's 7 really good-looking ones in good health, and then behind them 7 really ugly, thin, gaunt ones looking unhealthy come up out of the river. And cows are not considered cannibalistic, but in this dream the 7 unhealthy cows ate up the fat ones. So pretty disturbing, pretty bizarre. Doesn't know what to make of it, goes back to sleep, and he has a similar dream. This time it's with ears of grain. 7 healthy, full ears of grain get consumed by 7 really blighted ones that you probably wouldn't want to eat from anyway. And Pharaoh wakes up, and he's really shook up by all of this. I think in our times, if we remember our dreams much, we're conditioned to kind of think, not too much of them, because some of them are just really strange. There's no obvious answer for what they mean, but in those times, it was looked at totally differently. And so Pharaoh wakes up and he's very, very troubled. And so he calls for his magicians. But they don't provide any answers for him. Why do you think the magicians made no effort to interpret his dreams? Yeah, I've read that some people have suggested that they really knew what it meant, but we don't want to bring bad news to the king, so we'll just keep quiet. Okay? Anything else you could think of, maybe? Maybe they just plain didn't know. I mean, they didn't want to chance it for fear that they might be held accountable, for what they said. So at any rate, Pharaoh gets no help from his magicians. Okay. Now let's read verses 9 through 13, please.
Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today I am reminded of my shortcomings. Pharaoh was once angry with his servants, and he imprisoned me and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard. Each of us had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the interpretation of his dream. And the things turned out exactly as he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was hanged."
Okay. You see also the office that this cupbearer has. We said he's important to security, but also the Pharaoh kind of reveals some of his thoughts in passing, and they had some conversations and that kind of thing. It wasn't just purely a business kind of a relationship. And so the cupbearer hears about Pharaoh's dreams, and he says, "Oh yeah, I made a mistake here. There was a couple of years ago, I was down there in prison with this Hebrew guy, and he was able to interpret our dreams, and you know what? It happened exactly as he said. Maybe he can help you." All right? 14 through 24, if I could get a reader for that.
So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." "I cannot do it," Joseph replied to Pharaoh, "but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile, and out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them 7 other cows came up, scrawny, and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so, for they looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my dream I saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them 7 other heads sprouted, withered and thin, scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me."
All right, so Pharaoh sends down to the dungeon for Joseph, and they have to clean him up to make him presentable to the Pharaoh. The Israelites were in the habit of growing beards and that kind of thing. The Egyptians, the men at least, typically shaved and even shaved their heads. So they had to get him in a presentable form so that the Pharaoh would have some respect for him. And so they do that preparation. And Joseph walks into Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh tells him, "I've got a dream. There's nobody who can interpret it. We heard that you can." And again, how does Joseph answer Pharaoh? Yeah. Yeah.
What amazes me about this story is that Joseph was a Hebrew. He was second in command because Pharaoh liked him. And he said, "How can I do this against God? I'm second in command." Now he gets into prison, and
Well, now in his earlier assignment, he was in charge of Potiphar's house, not the Pharaoh's. Pharaoh was the captain of the guard, and so Joseph was put in charge of Potiphar's house.
Well, how many Hebrew boys you think it is?
Yeah.
And he was in the he's in a prison with only elite people. He wasn't in prison with everybody else.
Yeah, I think that probably was because the cupbearer and the baker would have been officers of Pharaoh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So soon as the opportunity is put before him, Joseph says, "It's not me that can do this. It's God who will give Pharaoh an answer." So Pharaoh tells his dream, and he tells it a little differently than what we read earlier. Can you pick up? There's something kind of subtle here, kind of Egyptian pride coming out of here. Oh yeah, not in my country. We don't have skinny cows in my country. It might be somewhere else, but not here. And he describes the ears of grain as ugly. You know, the 7 bad ears of grain. He describes them as ugly. And so you can see that he's kind of defensive about his own country, and he doesn't want there to be any kind of weakness displayed or anything like that. And so these dreams were really bothersome to him. All right, let's read on. 25 to 36. Okay. Very straightforward. Joseph begins to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. And he said, you had 2 dreams, but they really mean the same thing. The 7 good ears of grain and the 7 good cows represent years. And for 7 years, you're going to have grain running out of your ears. You are going to be doubled over with prosperity in ways that you won't even be able to count. But then after that, look out. Because there are going to be 7 very, very hard years. And if we don't prepare, we're going to starve. Okay? Very, very plain and simple. Also, he says the plenty, all the good stuff that we had during those 7 good years, that's going to be forgotten. You won't even remember it because the famine will be so severe. Verse 32 is interesting to me. The doubling of Pharaoh's dreams, that means that the thing is fixed by God. Scripture, when it wants to emphasize something, it kind of doubles down. You remember Jesus saying, verily, verily, I say to you? Now that's saying pay attention to this if you get nothing else. Okay, so that's one technique that Scripture has for emphasis. Now, Joseph gives Pharaoh an accurate interpretation of his dreams, but he gives Pharaoh a whole lot more than that. What does he bring? Yeah. And he says, here's what's going to happen now. Here's what you need to do. And what's his solution? Yeah. Yeah. Take a fifth of the 7 good years every year. Set a fifth of it aside, and you'll have more than enough to make it through. Distributed in cities all over the land, and that's going to be our reserve, and we'll get through these 7 years of famine. So Joseph gives Pharaoh a whole lot more than he even wanted, and I'm sure that he appreciated the guidance as well. What does this say about the need to be ready when an opportunity is presented? Because Joseph's just got it right there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because he's so far ahead of everybody else. He not only understands what's coming, he understands what to do about it. He's only been told these dreams a few minutes ago, but he's already got it figured out. It's like he was ready and waiting and looking for an opportunity, and it came, and he was ready. Yeah, I think it was, and I think it's pretty obvious to Pharaoh too, because all of his magicians stood by helpless as infants, and they couldn't do a thing for him. And here's this a foreigner that he jerked up out of prison, and he's got not only the interpretation, but he's got what do we do next? Yeah, Mark. Yes. Yep, you're right. Mark, you had. Oh, okay. All right, great. Yeah. Sure. That's exactly what you say is exactly the purpose I had put this question in here. We don't know when our opportunities are coming, and we don't have any assurance once they're presented and we fail to take advantage of them, they come back again. So timing is everything in a lot of situations. All right, let's read on to see what how Pharaoh reacts to Joseph's suggestion. 37 through 45, please.
The land seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I
Okay, so right off the top of his head, Pharaoh says, this prisoner, this Hebrew, this foreigner, has got a really great idea. And I think we should implement it. Not only that, we need somebody to put in charge to make sure that it gets implemented. And I don't know anyone better than this man that you have just brought to me. And in verse 39 is interesting. Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. Keep in mind, Pharaoh was probably polytheistic. He probably had a lot of gods that he worshipped for one occasion or another. But what he is saying is that Joseph's God has shown you this. And he respected Joseph's God, even though maybe this is the first that he'd ever heard of him. And so what's Pharaoh's first impression of Joseph? Yeah. Let's put him in charge. What does he give Joseph so that his authority can be recognized? Okay, signet ring, gold chain, chariot. Yeah, kind of like a wife. Yeah, and a new name, an Egyptian-sounding name. So he gives him all the tools that he needs to make all this happen. And he says in verse 44, I'm impressed with this. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. That's a lot of control, And so Joseph is given all the authority that he needs to make all of this happen. And he's given all of this at the age of 30. Keep in mind, Joseph was 17 when his brothers threw him into the cistern. Think about these 13 years, all the ups and the downs. And he remained centered. He remained faithful. We don't get any indication that he was down in that prison saying, why has God forgotten me? This is not working out for me. He's done nothing for me. You don't see any of that. You see steadfastness even throughout all of these difficulties. All right, let's see how the plan unfolds. Yeah. Let's read on 47 through 52. All right. That's where I wanted you to stop. All right. So, was Joseph just a food minister? Was he just the Secretary of Agriculture? Or was he recognized for a whole lot more? Whole lot more. You get the impression that Pharaoh had him as one of his chief advisors, as a source of wisdom for how to run the kingdom. Yes. Yeah. I think it's one of the great stories of the Bible, I think, anywhere. Yes, Carol. Very abrupt, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, yeah, I think for sure. I think he immediately respected Joseph's God. All right. Once he's given all of this authority and all of these trappings of authority, he doesn't sit around the palace, right? Waiting for things to happen. He's out in the country. Probably have to do a lot of convincing to have people set aside 20% of their crop every year. But somehow he was able to convince them that this was a wise thing to do. He was able to convince them that don't get used to these prosperous years because they aren't going to last forever. Get ready for the hard times as well. He is given a wife, and he has 2 children by this wife, and they were named Manasseh and Ephraim. What do their names mean?
That's a God, because God needed to get all my trouble, now my father's household. And the other one, Ephraim, because God has made me fruitful in the land of my son.
Yeah. Okay. Manasseh means to either forget or to cause someone to forget, and no doubt he had to get over the fact that his own family had sold him out. That's a lot to forget. It's a lot to forget that you've been falsely accused of adultery, and so he names him his first son in memory of that. And then Ephraim, doubly fruitful. Doubly fruitful. Maybe that's a reference to the 7 years of plenty, or the fact that God has just blessed him personally. All right, 53 to the end of chapter 41, please. Okay, this passage tells us that this was not just an Egyptian famine. This was over the greater part of the known world. The Egyptians were prepared for it because of Joseph's ability to interpret the dreams, and the rest of the world was not. And so the rest of the world became beggars to the Egyptians, including Joseph's family. Okay, so that's kind of the end of this particular block that I want us to look at, where Joseph has this tremendous reversal of fortune. Next time we will take up a new set of scripture, and where Joseph gets vindicated and gets revealed to his family. Here's what's coming up. The famine's widespread, forces Jacob to send 10 of the brothers to Egypt for food. Joseph, as second in command, recognizes them, but they do not recognize him. After a series of tests, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers. Jacob's family is invited by both Joseph and Pharaoh to move to Egypt to escape the ongoing famine, and Jacob accepts the invitation, and that's how they end up in Egypt as Exodus takes off. All right, we'll pick up at chapter 42, verse 1 next week, and the story of Joseph is going to be continuing to be interesting, I think.